Did you know that you are the light at the end of the tunnel? If you didn't, then I strongly suggest and recommend Steve Nanosu's Ultimate Mindset Program to you. I promise you, you won't regret it. My name is Latoria Todd, aka Toto, aka Khadijah Zareen. I am from Centreville, Virginia. I was born in Murray, Kentucky, and I currently live in Shanghai, China. What led me to do the coaching program was my lack of control of myself and my self-manipulation that I didn't realize was going on, and just feeling out of control of my life. I was miserable, I was depressed, and I couldn't understand why. And I was in a very low point in my life of being so into the outer world and external world that I would look or try to look inside myself, but I didn't know what I was looking at, and I didn't even know how to truly reflect or see anything beyond myself. Oh, I absolutely love the coaching program. I beyond enjoyed the program. It was so important for me to be able to get the tools and know exactly how to use those tools. And it was a process. It wasn't anything that happened overnight. I've been working with Steve for about 2 to 3 years now. And it was one of those things where at first I was seeing him maybe 2 times a week, to I went down to 1 time a week, and then I went down to 2 times a month, and slowly like 1 time a month, then 3-month checkups. So it was one of those programs where you are, for me at least, because he personalizes it for each person, where at first I was very dependent on him, and then he slowly, as each tool was known how to use, he slowly let me go. The coaching program was absolutely outstanding. I learned a lot about mental health. It made me realize the importance of mental health, especially growing up in a religious culture, growing up in even a culture, in the Black culture, and I would say any minority culture downplays the importance of mental health. People think, oh, I have God, I have, the serenity is, but they don't even know what they're talking about half the time. And when I say that, I'm not downplaying religion, I'm not downplaying, the culture of where I come from, but there is an importance of looking within, because when you know self and you understand how the brain works, and you understand how to use your brain and the tools that are within you, then you're able to change the world outside of you. What I would say the program has done for me is that it gave me freedom. It liberated me. I was my own prisoner, and I was in my own self-created chains. And when you create your own chains and throw away the key, those are the hardest chains to break, because when you throw away the key, what you have to always know is that you are the master, so you are able to create a new key, and if you can't create it, people around you can create it. And I'm not saying that you're the master as in the supreme being, absolutely not, but what I am saying is that the world influences, and you are your surroundings. If I'm hanging out with the trees all day, I will become at one with nature. It's just law. If I hang around people who are in let's say the club scene, and not to say those are bad people at all, but that's kind of the culture that I take on. So for me personally, it was more like, my story was more like, I wasn't into, coming into a big city where you can do and be whatever. You lose yourself. But in the losing yourself, you find yourself exactly where you need to be. And when you find yourself, you realize that person is not stagnant and that person is ever evolving. My single greatest takeaway is knowing myself. And I realized the more that I knew myself, the more that my reality changed. I worked for the coaching program. I worked with Steve. His name was Steve Nanosu. I hope I said his last name right. I worked with Steve, and Steve was great. I would call him when I was crying. I'd be like, help me, please. I can't take no more. And Steve would be like, no, I'm not helping you. Go review what we went over, and then you come to me after you've used the tools that I've provided for you. But I will not be here to solve your problems every time. You need to learn to master yourself, master your emotions, master the tools that have been given to you. And so for me, personally, it's taught me to be independent. And a lot of people, when I tell them I'm independent, like I don't need certain things, they think, oh, like for some reason they equivocate a woman saying she's independent with, oh, I don't need a man or I don't need this. No, independence for me means I know how to control my own emotions. You are not in control of my happiness. You cannot make me happy by getting me a ring. You cannot make me happy by giving me materialistic things. But you cannot make me happy. You cannot make me sad. I'm in control of all of that. And in order for me to get to that level or be happy that you gave me a necklace, I'm more gracious that someone thought about me enough to do something for me, but also recognizing I can do that for myself and not to make them responsible for my happiness. I'm responsible for my happiness. And it's about how can someone else make me happy when I don't know myself? And it's just a journey of getting to know self. For someone who's on the fence about the program and with Steve, I would tell them get off the fence. Being on the fence gets you nowhere. Either you're going to roam where you've always roamed and have the same thing because you have the same mind. You're going to roam where you've always roamed. You're going to see things the way you've always seen them. And your life is going to continue to be the way it is because that's what you have to work with. However, when you get out of the fence and get beyond the fence, you recognize things in yourself. And your perspective has no choice but to change. And the way that you see life and the way that you use life becomes a lot different. Just because you have those extra lenses to look through. You can always go back to the field that you came from, but it's to break that fence and to say, I can go here and I can go here. And I think that's the important thing. Get off the fence. There's no point. You're wasting your time being on the fence. Just do it. I was on the fence about Steve for the longest time because I was like, first of all, I'm not going to pay for somebody, to tell me what I can and can't do. Or my view of mental health because of, the context of which I grew up in. So I didn't really know what it was. If you're on the fence, try it. If you're on the fence, one thing that my mom told me that actually got me in Shanghai right now is, she was like, you've already denied yourself and told yourself no. So why not try it? And the worst that can happen is that it's good. And because of that, just that in itself, I did try it. And I was like, when you get to a low place, you can only go up. Or even if you're debating, try it once. If it doesn't work for you, that's fine. Maybe it's not your time, But there's nothing wrong with trying it because I went to, Steve offered me a free master class with him like 2 years before I actually took it. And then the time that I wasn't ready to take it then. I didn't have a need for it, or I thought I was in control, but lies. After a while, then I finally was like, you know what? I need to call Steve and I need to actually set this up and try this out. And I did, and I've never looked back. The greatest recommendation I can give about Steve and the program is, what do you want? What are your goals with yourself? And what Steve does is he doesn't tell you what to do, but he gives you the tools to align yourself with that which you want to do. And it forces you to create a dialogue or a monologue with yourself to decide what exactly you want to be. And even if you don't have the answer, you're going to fine tune yourself to finding it. So he gives you things to seek that you may not have even asked yourself. It is one of the best decisions that you could ever make in your life, and it will change the trajectory of your life. Some people are naturally up here in consciousness. They're naturally high in it. They're naturally, and I envy those people, because I'm like, here I am having to go through this whole process of elevating, and you just have it naturally. And what I realized was I wasn't one of those people that had it naturally. I wasn't one of those people who didn't have to go through anything. Life experience is the best teacher. And in order to progress, there's lessons that you need to learn. But if you don't have the tools to learn those lessons, and you don't have the tools to see a bad situation and decide for yourself, what lesson can I learn from this, then you are life's victim. Like, your life is living you, but you're not living life. And if you want to live your life, and you want to create goals for yourself, and you want to live in your greatest bliss, because now I feel like I'm naturally high all the time. Like, I get zoned out, and I'm just in my bliss, because I know I've come here for this purpose. I've come to like a certain location for a certain purpose. I'm focusing on that purpose. I'm not focusing on other things. Like, if it's bad, I'm gonna turn my head away from it, because I don't need that kind of energy in my space. So I would say to my best friend, do it, because it will only enhance your circles. I've lost friends, but I've gained great ones. Life for me after the program and working with Steve, it's like adding MSG into food. You know, if you don't know what MSG is, it's a food enhancer. But it's like the flavor of life becomes so vivid, and the passion and the taste and the drive and the bliss. Happy becomes happier. Bliss becomes just these words that are being used become that to the next level that you don't even know what. That you don't even know what it is, you know? And then you attract things like this. And you're okay with it, you know, because you understand that that's where people are at. And you understand, you have a better understanding with yourself and aligning with your truth. And yes, and then you start aligning with other things. Like, you know, through me doing the mastery program, I ended up changing a religion that I was my entire life and becoming something else. And it's because when I sought truth, and you seek certain things, some things just aren't enough. And you start to ask questions that you were told not to ask. And you actually come to an answer. And when you come into that answer, you recognize and realize, wow, like, I'm able to pursue whatever I want to. And when you know what you want, then you know what to pursue. It's amazing. Life, the relationships that I've lost, the relationships that I've gained, I don't think that I've lost any relationships. I believe that I've enhanced relationships and current relationships that I've had. Like, I can't begin to explain to you through my new eyes and new perspective that I've been able to go from a place of needing to be healed to becoming a natural healer for others, because I understand myself. So because now I understand myself, it makes me a better empathizer with others. And when people have breakups, when people have things they want to vent about, I always tell them, I'm like, don't come to me if you want me to blame the external world around you. Like, you created this. What lesson can you get out of this? Why is this happening, and how did you attract this into your life for it to happen to you? And it made me just study about the universe and study about, you know, the naturalness around us. You know, why is it that we can change mechanical, chemical, and have all these different kinds of engineering, but then when it comes, and you can invest in technology and invest in all these outside things, but you can't even look at the energy within yourself, because energy can't be created nor destroyed, only transformed. Why can't you transform your own energy and use it for yourself in order to enhance who you are? You'll enhance a computer, you'll update a computer, but you won't update yourself. And that doesn't make sense to me. What could individuals get that could change their life in this ultimate mastery program? Wow. I believe they can get, the best thing that you can get out of this life is recognizing who you are. The game changer is to realize that life is a game and it's meant to be fun. You don't play a video game not to have fun. You don't play you don't get into something and not have fun. You don't go into something with the intention of, I'm going to be miserable my entire life. You go into something ready to rumble, ready to have fun, ready to be in your best. That's ecstasy, right? Like, this life is the ultimate ecstasy. And I think that's why you do have such thing as addictions, right? Such thing as addiction to sex, or addiction to video gaming, or addiction, because people find their bliss there. But it's knowing that there's bliss everywhere around you, and how to identify all of those blisses and all of those things in order to enhance yourself. And that's life. Like, when you can play that game, it's playing Monopoly on the board and not being afraid to pass go, get that 20 and buy that piece of land that's right there. Because if you landed on it, somebody else is going to land on it too. I know that my mindset has completely changed. I know that who I am was always here. I was just too fearful and too afraid. I know that love always is there, and that we're always seeking it and always trying to find it. And that the reason that you feel so terrible all the time is because it's just like the emotions are like a GPS for you. And if you can recognize, I feel like crap today because I'm not making myself happy, then you need to focus on what makes you happy and keep living in that and keep striving in that. But just about me, yeah, I was self-manipulating. I would get drunk and blacked out and everybody lives their life the way they want to. Everybody grows in the way that they want to. Everybody goes through their own process. But I think it's important to recognize that you are going through a process, and that you are growing, and you are evolving, and you are changing, and you are forever going to do that as long as you're on this earth. Because if two things are real, it's one that you were born and one that you die. So we're living in between that space of life and death. And for me, it's when I die that day, I don't want to have any regrets. I don't want to be like, oh, I wish I would have forgave this person, or I wish I've forgiven every single relationship. Even when I hear certain people from my past say, oh, she really thinks, or he really thinks that you don't like them, and blah, blah, blah. And I always tell them, it's just where I was at in this life. And if I were to sit down with them, I would tell them thank you for being who they were. Because of who they were, it's made me into who I am. And I love who I am now. And I love the people around me. And I love being able to have the discernment to have that power to know who I want to be around and who I don't. I believe that I recognize the tool set. I didn't even know there was a toolbox. Like, we have this brain, but we don't even know how to use it. We talk about, oh, be this way and follow this law and do this and do that. And we go to school to learn about other things. And we go to school to do all these things. But we never it's a distraction. We never take the time to learn about ourselves. And for the first time in your life, if you've been on this earth for more than 1 year and you haven't I'll even excuse 1 to 5 years old, 5-year-olds. But if you've been on this earth for the amount of time that you have and you've never explored yourself, why are you here? Why are you here? And that's the first thing that you have to ask is, why am I here? Why does this bird, look at this bird. Why does this bird fly the way it does? Why does the tree, why are there flowers that bloom in the wintertime and other flowers bloom in the summertime? And why is it that people always think, oh, the harvesting only comes in the summertime? Lies. There are trees with flowers that blossom in the wintertime. So why is it that you believe that you have certain time periods? What if, like, even matter, right? Matter, like dark space, is just absorption. Like, dark matter is absorption. But we're thinking it's empty. Is it about the way that you see it, or who told you that? Because you can look in science book and it'll say, yeah, sure, it's empty space. But if you see space as matter, and you know that matter is absorption, and you know dark energy is absorption of space and matter and everything that goes in it, then you recognize and you know, like this dark time or this dark period in my life is a time for me to absorb everything around me and to go out and explore why, or to explore how can I get out of this, get out of this rut. You do not belong there. That's why you feel like shit, because you're not meant to feel like shit, because you're trying, your spirit and yourself is trying everything to get you to wake the fuck up, to know, I don't belong here, I belong somewhere else. And where my somewhere else is where there's ecstasy and where there's bliss and where there's happiness. Do not make yourself miserable when you're doing the right thing. It is okay to do the right thing. You're supposed to be in bliss while you're doing the right thing. If you giving is draining you, then that means that you have not gave to yourself. You give when your cup runneth over. And when your cup runneth over, that's when you fill other people's cup up. But if your cup don't runneth over in that, you need to find someone else who's able to run that cup over. And that's what Steve did to me. He made my cups runneth over because his cups overflow. There's absolutely nothing that can compare to Steve, his program, or there's nothing negative to say. Like, this man knows what he's doing, and he knows how the mind works, and he knows how to cater it specifically to you. I think for me, it's important. I've been to other coaches before, and I was like, you don't even understand my background. You don't understand what it is to live life as this, melanated human being, and yet you live with a certain privilege that I don't have. And I couldn't open myself up to speak to anyone that would say, oh, well, you have this issue. I know that I have issues, otherwise I wouldn't be sitting on this couch with you. But what can you do to help me see that issue, to overcome it? And a lot of the times they would say, you gotta push forward. And you hear all these motivational speeches from, all of these hot celebrities, or these you gotta get up and you gotta do this. Like, but how do I get up? Teach me to walk. And that's what his program does. It teaches you to crawl. It teaches you to walk. It teaches you to run. And it teaches you when to decide when to walk and when to run and when to crawl. But you always know to keep going. Come on, Martin Luther King. That's it. That's it.